Hey, so it's been a little while since I put up anything on this channel, and I apologize for that. I've been out there pounding the pavement, looking for gainful employment to at least, at a minimum, supplement my consulting business, which, as much as I may want to back out of it, I really can't because it's the only thing making me any money at all, even though I'm not making enough to really live on. But I don't know, maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's a problem with my own self-image. I don't know. But bottom line is, I've been watching some videos and some things about how to deal with customers and how to deal with stressful situations and things where people want to try to make you feel bad about yourself. And it kind of occurred to me that I keep running into the same brick walls, and when you run into those brick walls as many times as I do, especially in IT, you have to just take a step back, go into the third person view, like a gaming term, go into the third person, and just kind of get a little better view of what's all around you. Um, you know, you're gonna get anywhere from people who aren't really qualified to interview you to people who just basically want to flop out their well, he didn't say it quite as elegantly, but want to flop out their technical gonads, just to make themselves look good and try to make you feel bad about yourselves. And I had a recent interview with a company, a security company. It wasn't a bad job, looked kind of interesting, for as much as it is. IT is kind of a whole these days, at least in the Phoenix area. But it wasn't a bad company, and that's good credits. Thing is, this job is something I would have never applied for. It was something that I personally felt that while it was something I could eventually, do well, I didn't feel that I could get anywhere near that within 6 months because it was so far out of the realm of the kind of stuff that I normally do. It was still IT and it was security, but it was very, very, very in-depth, very much. If you've seen that series, I don't know what station on, but it's on cable, Mr. Robot, where the Uber hacker, he works for that security company. It's a firm very much like that. Very, very similar thing there. And the thing is, it's so similar, it was a little spooky while I was sitting in the interview. It was actually so bad that I actually had to stifle a laugh a few times. But what it was is these people, they do a decent job, but they had some procedures and policies in place that I knew eventually might be a problem, but hey, if you're paying me, I'll do what you tell me. I don't care. I'm not going to stand on principle. And the thing is, I was in on this interview. I got this interview because basically a recruiter said, you should go try anyway. So, okay, I'll give it a try. Because maybe they're looking for something I'm not seeing in myself, but that I may possess. I will always try to defer if I think somebody has a better idea and, a better relationship, with the situation. If they're going to try, if someone is making that much of an effort to convince me that I would be a good fit, and I don't think so, I'm not going to argue with them. I'm like, okay, we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a go. And the worst that happens, I get the outcome I had here, which was, okay, the end game was that I didn't get the job. And I really think I would, but I had a good time at the interview. And the thing is, it was kind of liberating because I actually met a representative there before I went upstairs and talked to the guys in this interview, who was, oh, don't be nervous, and they're just this, and they're trying to feel you out, and blah blah blah. It's a standard recruiter talk. And I turned to him and I said, you know what? I have no expectation, and I really didn't, because it's not that I didn't want the job, but I really didn't think I had much of a chance of getting it anyway, so I didn't have anything to lose. And that's not a bad way to approach an interview because it's very liberating. You get very calm and you just do your best. If they ask a question, you try to answer it. And who knows, maybe what you know is enough and you could be pleasantly surprised. If it's not, well, I mean, no harm, no foul. You have another life experience, and guess what else I have? I have some audio for you. I know you're watching this video going, what the hell is he doing? What is going on in the background? This is just background stuff I put up here so you can have something to look at while I'm talking. But I have recorded some of the conversation. Now, names have been changed, that kind of thing. You're not going to hear anything that's personally identifiable about the company. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to give you an example of basically a guy in an interview that remember, I have no skin in this game. I have, as badly as I need to work, I know that I'm not going to get hired for something I'm not qualified for. And I really didn't feel like I was qualified, but then again, I was willing to defer to someone else's judgment, hence the reason I was in the room anyway. So, but you can hear this, and it's funny because you'll hear in this a discussion between me, and the guy is going to ask me about a difficult situation. And what he's doing is less about trying to find out what I know and more about trying to trip me up or trying to make me look like a fool. I got that. There's a shade of gray there, but you got it. This guy was basically flopping out his tech gonads. And you'll hear that. When you get this kind of situation, here's the advice I'll give you. I'll say this much. Stick to your guns. Don't be nervous. Don't worry about it. Answer the questions you can answer. Tell them what you know, not what you don't. Don't fake a darn thing, because if you're going to be ever caught in a lie, it's going to be then. Just do the best you can. And if somebody's going to make an ass out of himself, let them make an ass out of themselves. And in this case, this guy actually did, to the point where his boss ended up ultimately having to shut him down because his boss saw that this guy was just badgering me. And what it was a personality thing. Guy just didn't like how relaxed I was. And it wasn't arrogance, it's just, what do I have to be nervous about? Anyway, that's kind of the send up. So with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and let you kind of watch or listen to the video and listen to the exchange. Maybe take something out of it, because actually I thought this was pretty standard for what I go through with with a technical interview. So anyway, that's it. Not from what I've seen, but I know there's better out there. And again, it's open source. Open source is great for development, lousy in production. So.
Yes.
So, walk me through a troubleshooting process that you've had to do.
Wow, there's a lot of them. I mean,
So,
anything in mind?
Pick one. Pick a problem you had to. That preferably something that
Pick
you actually had to
most
work.
proud of.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't take pride in that stuff. I want to get it over with. I want it gone. I want my users happy again.
Which one was a challenging? What's a challenging one that you had to overcome? And
Actually, the most recent would have been what I've been working on, which is getting that stupid SSL certificate to work in Centora, because I was getting blank pages, literally. And the steps that I took through is basically figuring out, okay, what works and what doesn't. Okay. The basic stuff. Can we ping it? Is the service running? Is the service configured correctly? Okay, this is where we start getting into the meat. Is the service configured correctly? Which service is it? In the case of Centora or even zPanel, you've got to not only worry about things like HTTPD config, but you got to worry about HTTP, in this case, -vhost config. Oh, and by the way, is SSL config getting in the way too? Because guess what? It will. Even if you think you've disabled it, it won't, because the way Apache uses SSL and the way it's set up, the first thing it's going to do is say, I'm going to look at any possible configuration file that has anything to do with SSL and pull in any of the settings. Well, guess what? If you've got duplicate settings, what's going to happen is it's going to grab the first set. In this case, we had settings that were set in SSL config that were conflicting with HTTP vhost, and basically the overrides that were put to make SSL work in this environment, this Centora environment. So what happened was I was looking at HTTP-error log in var log error, or var log HTTPD error. It's their path for it, and all I'm seeing is, oh, well, we already found this. First takes precedence, and I've got no cert. It doesn't work because what's configured in SSL config is completely wrong.
but it's using the default. So I had to go back in SSL config and go, okay, look at these lines. What do I want? What's conflicting? Because now I may want to say, okay, I could completely negate this entire file. Just hash marks all the way down. Except that, do I really want to do that? Because there's elements of that file, like maybe a listen port, maybe the way the key isn't generated, that kind of thing, that I don't necessarily want to replicate 47 times through 47 hosts in vHost, which is the way I'd have to do it, because the global never quite works right. But in SSL config, that's a global configuration file. So I'll leave those parts in there. But the parts that are conflicting, I'm going to look at what's conflicting in SSL config and vHost. Okay, we disable it in SSL config, so we still let that load, and it won't interfere with what I'm doing over here. Because it's looking for the first instance it sees. When it sees, okay, I'm grabbing that. Well, if it isn't in SSL config, it's not going to conflict now with vHost. So once I did that, I was like, oh, bing, SSL works, and oh, by the way, let's go to SSL checker, and oh yeah, PayPal will be happy with this, done. So.
Cool. All right. Let's see. So how did you check to see if those services were up and running?
Well, it's real simple. HTTPS, you just basically, it was just easy to put it in a browser, and then basically, you already know, and most modern browsers will tell you right off the bat if you're in a secure session. So I go click the little, in the case of Chrome, I click the little folder on the little green folder, look at it, check the certificate, make sure it's the right certificate, the one that I know to be correct, make sure it's all happy. As far as I want to see green down, I don't want to see no red, I don't want to see anything about wrong host name or anything like that. I want to see it all nice and happy and the certificate happy. And then the final thing is, like I said, because the point of this was to make PayPal happy, you go to PayPal's recommended check your site URL they give you, put it in there, and it's happy. So.
Okay.
So you had mentioned earlier that you're used to having the ability to kind of nuke and repave if need be. And with that not being an option, because we don't have the full ownership of a lot of the appliances that we're going to work on, do you foresee that being a troubling issue for you, or?
I look at, from what I understand thus far, this company seems like it's kind of like a LifeLock for data, kind of. So we're going to let you know what's going on. We're going to do what we can to help you, but ultimately it's up to you.
Right.
So that's kind of how I see it. So at that point, you know what? It's not my baby. It's not my thing. All I can do is recommend.
Right.
And that's the thing. And I'll do best practice, that thing within that framework, whatever. But they're not my babies. Like I said, they're not my servers.
So for some of our clients, we do own the maintenance of their security analytics environment, which are Linux systems, which you have to be able to maintain. So there'll be a problem that'll come up, or you'll have to upgrade them, and
well, are these our servers that are there, or our VMs or whatever are for the sake of our offering, or is this something they own?
These are often physical appliances that are deployed across the country, across the world, that are networked together.
But are they ours, or are they theirs?
We do not own them in the sense of they are our property. We own them in the sense that we are responsible for maintaining them.
What's the scope of that device, though? That's what I'm asking. Are we going to go into somebody's 2012 R2 server and do things?
There are no Windows boxes for these devices.
Okay, but that's what I mean. I'm trying to get the context here, which is okay. If we put a security device in, I would assume that that's our baby. We take care of it. But do we go beyond a security device? Do we ever touch their stuff to remediate?
We do not touch. This is not for remediation. This is for maintenance of a security appliance in the environment.
Sure.
So there may be for example, a process may hang, or so you have to go over and remediate that. A disk may fill up. You have to go resolve something like that. You might we are responsible for performing updates, which is sometimes complicated.
Okay, but updates on what?
On the
Ours, theirs,
on the
everybody's?
security appliances.
Okay,
So that will involve
Okay.
platform updates from the vendor, but also include the underlying Linux updates as well.
Mhm.
And historically.
On the device.
On the security appliance, yes.
Okay.
You may also.
Those are fairly limited though. I think in
Those are
most
fairly-
of our remote management contracts, we only say that we're gonna do no more than two OS level upgrades per year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is part of it. Working through connectivity issues between devices in an environment where you don't have access to their network appliances, so you'd have to figure out how to test a connectivity between two systems. So how might you go about doing something like that when you don't have the ability to access their environment, other than just the two systems?
if I don't have access to their environment,
Only the two systems that you're trying to test between.
that's all I have?
Yeah. Working with-
But I do have complete access to those two
You have
systems.
the access to those.
Well, then, you know, you're getting with pings and trace routes and that kind of stuff. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. You know,
How would
NetStat,
you- how are you gonna-
SS now.
How are you gonna check to see if a specific system can reach a specific port on that other system?
It depends on what tool. I mean, if I try to, depend on the service I'm going. I mean, if it's Telnet, you know, I'm trying to do Telnet 2123.
Port 5106.
No idea.
All right.
I don't memorize ports.
That's a specific appliance port to RSA. So that would be that's the NW broker, but.
Well, and I found one thing I found a lot that's really been easy is SSH or even Telnet. A lot of times I have the ability to throw in any port I want and it'll respond.
Okay.
I mean, so
So how would you-
SSH or Telnet is joy in that
Alright.
case,
So
and
how
it's
would
just it's
you-
basic configuration in the client.
So how did you use that to test?
Well, if I can get that port and get that with my SSH or with SSH or a Telnet client, if I can get a connection with that port, and it comes up and it likes my creds, I'm in. I'm happy. I mean, it's very crude, I know, but I'm in.
No, that's fine. Just
But,
walk
you
me
know.
through how you're going to test that.
Well,
Just other than
I'm
just-
connected. What more? I mean,
Okay, so let's say it doesn't connect.
then I know there's a problem with the port. Maybe I got to look. I got to
So
look
is
up and
that-
see if it's a
okay.
different port.
So is it a
Or-
problem with? My point is it? How do you identify if it's a problem with the network, the receiving host?
Well, I'm not even going to try to do like a Telnet SSH until the first thing I will always do is if I have an IP that's publicly addressable from where I am, or even not, if I'm in VPN, whatever. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure I can just reach the device. Period. I mean,
Okay.
nothing's going to happen if it's offline, it's offline. You know, I can't magically make the packets go through air gap. So, you know, I mean,
But how do
it's-
you know if that air gap is there? Is my point.
Well, I know
Or if
because I'm
there's
not
a-
connected.
Or if there's a firewall rule that's blocking access. That's one of those things.
Okay. The first question I'd say in that case is, why is this rule here? Why is this rule here? Now, why can we not do what we're supposed to be able to do? We need to talk to somebody, whoever is in charge at that site, saying, who put this rule here because we need to figure this out? You know, because it's blocking our ability to do what we need to do for you. You know?
Okay.
You know, maybe, maybe you've got a malware infection. Maybe you've got something that infected something and it's shutting down those ports. Kind of like when Windows used to get those nasty little viruses that would keep you from going to Task Manager so that you couldn't shut down the errant services, that kind of thing. You know, you've got to code with things. It's all code. So that could happen too. You know, that's possible. You know, but I'm sure that's a whole different can of worms that we get into at that point. And I'm sure there's something within your management suites that can identify that kind of behavior, you know, or assist in identification of it. So,
Mm,
Done with the curveballs?